All right, let's jump right in. We all know the AI revolution is happening, right? But here's the thing. It's running on a secret and very limited resource: power. Yeah, we're talking about a massive, unseen energy crisis that could literally bring the whole industry to a grinding halt. So today, we're going to unpack what that is, and more importantly, how some folks are planning to smash right through it.
And it's a simple question, but honestly, kind of terrifying when you really think about it. Because the way AI is growing, it's just exponential. And that is putting a strain on our global power grid that we have never ever seen before. The truth is, our current system, it just wasn't built for this kind of demand. Not even close.
So this image right here, it really sums it all up. You've got the problem and the glimmer of a solution all in one. The industry is slamming headfirst into what people are calling the global power wall. But the way forward, the vision for the future, it isn't about just building more power plants the old way. No, it's about building something completely different.
Okay, so let's really get into the nitty-gritty of the problem. You've got AI's absolutely insane demand for computing power, and it's crashing right into the physical, real-world limits of our old-school infrastructure. This is that energy crisis that you probably haven't heard much about, but believe me, it is shaping the entire future of tech.
And here's the key thing to understand. This global power wall, it's not just as simple as we need more electricity. Think of it more like a massive traffic jam. It's a complex bottleneck caused by 4 different problems all happening at once, creating a complete standstill.
So what are these 4 barriers? Let's break them down. First, our power grids are totally congested. They just can't push any more juice through the lines. Second, the cooling systems in most data centers are ancient. They can't handle the insane heat coming off modern AI chips. Third, you've got these absolute nightmare permitting delays. And last but not least, you have this total mess of different vendors all trying to coordinate, and it's chaos.
And let's just hang on that delay for a second. 5 to 10 years. Just think about that. That's how long it can take simply to get a new data center plugged into the grid. In the AI world, that is an absolute eternity. I mean, the technology will have evolved like 5 times over before the lights even get turned on. It's crazy.
All right, so that's the problem. And yeah, it's a pretty massive wall. So the big question is, how do you break through it? Well, one really interesting solution is coming from a company called WHD Global. And they have this radical new idea for AI infrastructure. They call it the Intelligence Factory. And the name really says it all, an intelligence factory. The whole point is to stop thinking of data centers as just giant warehouses that suck up power. Instead, you build a self-sustaining facility that actually produces its own power. And that's where this phrase decoupled from legacy grids comes in. It's the secret sauce. It means you don't have to wait in that 10-year line to get plugged in. So here's their pitch, and it's pretty compelling. Instead of you having to juggle dozens of different companies for power, land, and construction, you get one contract, one partner. They handle the whole shebang. The renewable energy, the real estate, the tech, everything. And because they do that, they can completely bypass those grid queues. You get your AI capacity ready to go on day 1, not 10 years from now.
So how is this even possible? And how does it create a competitive edge? Well, what HT says, their model gives them what they call 4 unfair advantages. And these are things that they believe the old school players just can't copy easily.
First up, being integrated. Remember that chaos we talked about with all the different vendors? Well, this completely solves it. When you're the single company in charge of everything, there's no more finger pointing. There are no accountability gaps that slow everything down. It's just one team, one goal. Get it done.
Advantage number 2 is all about being greener. See, when you own your own power source, you can build it to be renewable right from the start. You're not trying to patch things up later with carbon credits or messy contracts with other power companies. It's clean from the ground up. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, we're not talking about a few solar panels on the roof of a building. This is 6.5 gigawatts of owned renewable energy. That is a massive amount of power. And that's what makes it possible for them to even talk about being net zero from the very first day they flip the switch.
The third advantage is being smarter. And what that means is that all the cool tech, we're talking AI-driven cooling, predictive robotics, it's all baked into the design from the very beginning. It's not something they tack on later or have to do some expensive upgrade for. It's in the building's DNA.
And this side-by-side really shows you what we mean. On the left, you've got the old way, traditional air cooling. It's basically like trying to cool a supercomputer with a giant power-hungry air conditioner. But on the right, that's AI-driven immersion cooling.
You're literally submerging the hot components in a specialized liquid. It is a way more efficient method for dealing with the crazy amount of heat these AI chips pump out.
And the proof, as they say, is in the pudding. Or in this case, in the numbers. This number represents a metric called PUE, or Power Usage Effectiveness. Basically, it's a score for how efficient a data center is. A perfect score is a 1.0. That means every single watt of power goes into computing. Anything below 1.2 is considered absolutely world-class, especially in hot climates where cooling is a huge energy hog.
And that brings us to the fourth and final advantage, which circles all the way back to the beginning, being faster. Because they own their own land that's already permitted, and because they build their own power plants right next door, they just completely leapfrog the biggest problem holding everybody else back. They skip the line. They beat the clock.
So you might be wondering, how are they actually pulling this off? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the money and the tech that's making this whole strategy work.
Well, for starters, it's backed by some very serious capital. We're talking about an $8 billion investment program. And that money is laser-focused on one thing: building out this brand new type of AI infrastructure.
So where's all that cash going? Well, look at this. The biggest chunk, over $3 billion, is going straight into what we've been talking about: renewable energy and microgrids. They are putting their money where their mouth is to solve the number one problem: power. The rest of it is getting split between that advanced cooling tech, robotics for automation, and of course, building the platforms themselves.
This chart really lays it all out, nice and simple. On one side, you have WHT's model. On the other, the old way of doing things. And just look at the difference under power source and build speed. One owns its own power and skips the line. The other is stuck depending on the grid and waiting in that 5 to 10 year queue. It's just a completely different ballgame.
And this isn't some far-off dream. There's a real roadmap here. They're already starting with that solid 6.5 gigawatt base. By 2030, the plan is to have these massive facilities up and running across 4 continents. And by 2035, they're aiming for over 20 gigawatts of their own renewable power. That's just a staggering amount.
Okay, but why does any of this matter to us beyond just getting faster AI? Well, the human impact could actually be huge. Think about it. This kind of model could let countries build their own AI clouds, which is a massive deal geopolitically. It could finally bring reliable, modern infrastructure to emerging markets in places like Africa. And get this, these factories could actually become power plants for the community, selling extra energy back to the grid. They become an asset, not just a drain.
And all of this leads us to one final, really big question to leave you with. We know AI is becoming critical national infrastructure. It's going to be just as important as our power grids, our roads, our water supply. So the question is, who should be building it? And maybe even more importantly, who gets to control it?